Mladen, thank you for your time. Obviously speaking now after the winter transfer window, a good time to reflect and sort of explain what went on during that time. So first of all, I imagine just talk us through, the processes, the strategy going into this window and the acquisitions we made.
So yeah, after the summer window, I think we all agreed we were a couple of bodies heavy and some squad rebalancing needed to be done. So we went through the first half of the season just to see sort of what worked, who were going to be the key players that came from the new signings. We obviously had a lot of turnover in the summer with 5 of the key players who contributed a lot of minutes last year leaving. And then we felt like we had our core coming into November and then into December. We sort of knew, after consulting with Daryl, who was going to be part of the longer term plan here. So that sort of determined who the outs were going to be. Obviously, we work within a budget here, and we have to rebalance that as well to bring the proper players in. So we worked the market for the outs and made sure things we had lined up to bring the ins. First of which was Joe Gauci. So first of all, saying Ben Killip stepped in and did well. But what we looked at was a slightly different profile of goalkeeper, and Joe, someone we've tracked for a long time. The opportunity came up, and we knew at some point early in January that he was going to be available from Villa. So we basically held out for the best option we could get there of what was available on the market. So we brought Joe in, obviously Australian international, very experienced over in the A-League and really solid debut here. So, happy with that one. Strengthened in that position. So after that, we obviously looking at outfielders. We brought in Neil Farrugia much earlier. He's someone we'd contacted Shamrock Rovers last summer. Obviously in the middle of a really good league and cup run. They were reluctant to let him go, but we knew he was out of contract at the end of the year. So that one obviously happened much earlier in the window. We were further down the line with that one and knew he was coming available and knew he wanted to come to Barnsley. So that was sort of sorting out that wing-back situation, bringing him in so we had some support for Georgie, and also Neil's a versatile player who we're happy with, who's played at a really high level. Moving on from that, the other two sort of based around the outs we were going to do. So Sam Cosgrove, who's a really good pro and someone we know has been, good in his career, hasn't quite hit it for him here. So we knew that we were going to have to rebalance that forward line. So we did look at a few different options. And the main thing was we consulted Daryl in that process about what he wanted from the striker coming in. What he felt we really needed was a profile of a guy who could stretch the game, was physically really good, could get in behind, but also play as a bit of a target man. Now in January, that's not a profile that's abundant out there on the market. Clement was someone again that we'd been aware of before, but Bastia had just signed him in the summer. Sort of more towards the middle of the window, he came up as an option that we were happy to take. And then obviously they had to get a couple in to allow him to come out, but really happy Clement's here now. He comes from a good standard of football. And we think he can contribute in terms of tactically what Daryl wants and for the end of the season. And then finally, the Karen Lofthouse one was a bit more of a tricky one, just being really honest. In the first half of the season, he wasn't that involved. He's 24 now. Corey had established that position and Barry had got minutes there too. And we had an open and honest conversation throughout the whole window of if the right opportunity came up for him and we could find, a high-level replacement like Dexter, would we be open to a loan? So we thought, in both the short term, we get a quality player in Dexter, who's played at higher levels. He's played in the Championship, the Scottish Premier League, also got 22 caps for Jamaica. But also that allows us to actually let Kyron out, keep the squad balanced, and more importantly, Kyron comes back to us a better player, getting some games at League One level.
Positive news also during the window in Vimal Yoganathan, of course, signing his new contract with the club. Really positive news tying down an academy prospect like Vimal. Just talk to the thinking on that one.
Yeah, so as you saw in the summer, we had Casper and Jack go out. We had to be quite aggressive on the fact that if there were going to be young players who might be on the fringe of the squad in the game squad some weeks, not in the others, they're not going to get better that way. I think we've been vindicated with how well Jack and Casper have done out on loan, whereas if they'd been here, I don't think we'd be seeing the same level of performance with them not getting regular games. So we thought, carry that strategy through to now. Who else was in that position in the squad? So one of them was obviously Aidan Marsh. He's had a few loans that haven't worked out, so we were trying to find one that would give him the minutes he needs at quite an important age. And then on top of that, we've known for a while that we want to extend Vimal's contract. What we needed to do in tandem was get him a loan straight away at a good level that we could send him out on. Again, he's at a really good age to have his first loan now. We know physically he's ready, technically he's ready, but we just want to get more games into him. a thing that I spoke to Bobby about pre-season and the board was that sometimes there hasn't been a transition here from academy into first team because these loans haven't happened or come off and they've maybe stayed in the 21s for too long. We think we're giving everyone the best chance possible. And Bobby's held up his end of the bargain as well, because if you look at the number of players that have gone out to, say, Conference North, Conference South, or even a step below, it's a lot more than it was, and they've all got solid minutes. It just means getting them into men's football earlier, we can have a better assessment of whether they can transition into the squad. So the Vermael and Marshy one were part of that thinking.
Yeah. And speaking more generally about the window as a whole, famously a very tough window to operate in across the 92 clubs. Just sort of talk us through how you feel, the window went, a wide assessment of it.
Yeah, I think in terms of getting quality in, we brought in 4 players that have got really specific qualities from good levels of football. The thing to remember as well is that window is much more reactive than others. In a lot of clubs, there's a 1 in, 1 out. So even if you have your target, which we did, we had them set really early and contact was even going on early December, they can't guarantee you that player is going out. Similar to us with Sam Cosgrove, actually, we'd been approached weeks before for him, but really it depended on us getting the target that we wanted in. So there's a lot of change like this in January that's not quite the case in summer. So that's where the saying, it's a tough market comes from, and people getting an adequate replacement for someone they want to let out, even if it might be one of their fringe players, is really difficult. And also just the compressed time of it is just 1 month compared to the 3 or 4 you get over summer. So again, getting players out of other clubs is a bit more difficult, even if you agree terms really quickly. One thing that we do here is make sure that when we've got multiple targets ready for a position, that everything's done already, the negotiation is done, and then the only timeline we're waiting on is for the player to become available so we can bring him in the building, and sometimes that is out of our hands. In terms of how the rest of the window went, we're happy that we managed to rebalance the squad generally. More of our young lads are playing football where they should be, and operating with a tighter squad till the end of the season is easier to manage in a lot of ways. We've got a few guys in the building now who know they're all going to play a part. It can be tough leading into the second half of the season with a really chunky squad of guys who know they're not going to be involved, but everyone in there now knows they've got a part to play in the push for promotion. Regarding outgoings then, how important was it that Darryl kept hold of the players that he felt were vital as we approached the second half of the season? Yeah, from the summer when Darryl came in, we assessed the squad. We had a look at who we wanted to build the team around and, who needed to stay throughout the whole season for us to have a successful season. So to keep hold of them is something we're really happy about. We obviously did have approaches, back in the summer and now, but our stance was really firm and clear, aligned with the ownership that we weren't going to lose any of our best players throughout this season. So that's probably why the focus might have been more on moving out some of the fringe guys and getting them minutes or moves. And I think the key thing is none of these players have come to us asking to leave. I think that shows quite a lot of buy-in in terms of what Darryl's doing and the fact that our squad is on the same page for what the target is for the end of the season. With that then, do you feel the squad is now at a stronger point than it was before this winter window? I think player for player, I think we've brought in good quality. So, in terms of Joe, really good profile that we brought in that strengthens us. Same with Dexter, a guy who's only ever played at a high level than this in his whole career. We've also brought in Neil, who has played European football and addressed the squad need in terms of balance that we had. For Clement, the standard he's coming from is equivalent to sort of mid-championship to upper League One. So he's playing against good oppositions. Had a promising start there, so we think he can contribute there as well. So in terms of actually fulfilling the needs we wanted and we discussed with Darryl, we feel we have. You can always get 1 or 2 more bodies in, but we had to be really careful to think who's going to contribute till the end of the year, who's already in the door that we've got that we might have forgotten about for 2 weeks just because they're injured, who's got to come back. All these long-term considerations are in play as well as the short-term ones till the end of the season. With that then, what are the aims and objectives between now and the end of the current campaign? It's just a push for promotion with the squad that we've got. We back the squad, we back Darryl, we back the coaching staff. And now we just have a full tilt at promotion as best we can with who we've got in the building. So I think it's clear to everyone once a window shuts what you're working with towards the end. There's no more question marks. When a window's open, there's a lot more focus on every single result and every single game. As soon as that shuts, everyone knows what they're working with, what they're planning around. There's less uncertainty and it just helps us move forward. Well, Mladen, thank you once again for your time. It's been a very busy period for yourself and I'm sure we'll hear from you very soon. Cheers.